There we are. We are live. Right. Well, we got a packed panel already, but we've got the link in the Hangout chat on Google Plus if anyone wants to join us. Bill, kick us off in the traditional. Kick us off in the traditional. How have you been this week? What have you been up to?
Good. Here in a time loop. I'm checking to make sure that it's not me. It doesn't look like it is.
I'm not hearing one now. I heard one briefly.
I'm doing fine. I had a nice client call this morning going over an audit, and they had two huge websites with lots of issues. It was actually kind of fun to go through because they were all excited about fixing them.
Yeah. I had one a bit like that a few weeks ago. Got a lead from a guy who's given me some excellent leads in the past, and he sent me over this company that were in real trouble. And I said, "Is this just in my opening thing? Is this to do with the robots meta tag on line 16 of the homepage that says no index, no follow?"
Oh no!
And yes, it was. And I did advise them, look, get a full audit, because if that has slipped past, there's no telling what issues are still there. And yeah, well, they're back in Google. They're doing great, but they haven't had their full audit yet. And I think that's short-sighted.
Yeah. It's worth doing because there's so much that can go wrong these days.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you miss the homepage having no index, no follow, yeah, there's some serious problems.
We don't know why we're not in Google or Bing.
What could go wrong, right?
Yeah. Still, that's how it goes. Doc, how are you, sir? What have you been up to this week?
Oh, about 6'4", no good. I got... took about a half an hour this morning and went and gave myself a haircut and took a shower and came back out and found a 3-month-old invoice from a client was finally paid. So nice. I think I may take several showers today just to see if my luck holds.
That's better than somebody saying this is your 3-month-old baby we could tell you about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to be showering a lot this week.
That's what it takes. That's what it takes. At the end of the month, you'll be rich, but you'll look like a prune.
That is it. Well, I'm kind of pruny anyway, so I got a head start.
Steve, how are you, fella? And what have you been up to?
I had a great client call this morning, too. Old client. She comes around every now and then, and she just wants a whole new website rebuilt and didn't care what the budget was. She just said, make it beautiful. And I said, we do beautiful. Thank you. But other than that, we actually live right underneath the path of the eclipse, so I didn't have to go anywhere and sit my front porch and kick back and watch the eclipse happen.
So will that be 4-figure beautiful or 5-figure beautiful?
It's gonna be, it'll be 4-figure. I know what she's got to spend without asking, so I won't go crazy with it. Basically, it's just we're just gonna freshen it up. It's been 5 years since that website's been touched.
Yeah,
so we'll give her a little.
She'll check up tomorrow and discover that a homepage is just a full-page image of you.
Yep.
That's what I found beautiful.
and with her customers, they'll pay to make that go away. Because they would rather see pictures of her.
Hey Fab, how are you? What have you been up to?
Good. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. Yeah. Not much. Like just a lot of things going on. Plus, I'm on holiday next week, so I'm trying to give the rest of the team an update on what we're up to. We have new guys. We have a lot of stuff that we shipped last week, so it's It's just checking what was shipped well, what is better but broken, and because sometimes happens. But I think that like even though, and the one thing like we probably fucked up a bit on releasing, but because we didn't want to A/B test that much before releasing, but like as long as you fix it soon enough, we spotted that before the pain was probably going to hit us, and it was actually fine. So that pretty much has been my week. And then tomorrow I have a SEM Rush SEO surgery, so I started to have a look at that website. And it's dating, so I need to start installing dating apps and figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah. That's why you've installed dating apps, honest. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All these profiles of women, research for work. It's just
like what I'm finding is that there's a lot of well, first of all, I'm quite against the whole ASO thing in a way that it's just one page, right? And like one thing is playing with the store, and the other one is doing SEO in search. So they're like two different subjects. But some of these companies are quite heavy on the upfront, so there's stuff in there. But I don't necessarily consider that being SEO, as in like getting reviews and things like that. Yeah, it's because you have a good product, you know. And then when you go through all this up, you figure out there's a lot of like, you know, if on website there is a quality issue, as in you have good side, good pages, bad pages. If you have a shit tab, that's the entirely your experience, right? It's not that you can have parts of the website that is good, the other part is doing okay. Like if you have a poor app, it's a poor app. That's it, right? You will get bad ratings. People will not install. Google Store will not feature you, and so on and so forth. So it's a more on and off type of situation, whether either very good or very crap. And like, I don't know. So far, I'm finding little people that are in between the two. Yeah. Anyway, that's my week so far.
Yeah. You've changed location again. Can see the gherkin in the background there.
Yeah.
Interesting tiling. It looks like they've borrowed it from the local underground station.
Yeah, it feels like an hospital, to be honest, or one of those like clinics for mad people. I don't know, like it's a bit weird actually. But you know, when they try to make a place hipster, the office is inside T building, is this old building in front of Box Park, Shoreditch High Street, and then they have those little details that pretend to be fancy and give the old feeling of the building, but they're very unfunctional, like the two tap in the toilet, those little things that, you know, a brand new one would have done a better job. But yeah, it's nice. Changing rooms just to make it different.
Terry, how are you? What have you been up to?
Oh, I'm pretty good, thanks. Not doing too much, really. I took one site I've been working on, added SSL to it. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. I still don't like it, think it's stupid.
Sadly, you
But
got
no choice.
now.
Google says.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. One day they're saying, you got to speed up your site. The next day they're saying, well, now we want you to add SSL. Well, make up your mind, will you? That's what happens, you know. And besides, I don't think Google should tell people how to build websites. That's my job.
Well, they don't.
There are plug.
They don't care how you build it. They just say if you want to be in their search engine, you'll do it their way.
I'm not stealing from you if I put a gun to your head and say, give me money either.
Well, they're not putting a gun to your head. They're just refusing to give you webmaster welfare.
Yeah, well, okay. Oh, I don't mind. I get paid. But I wonder, just think of the billions that have to be spent to do this. It's not cheap. You're going to buy an SSL certificate. I mean, a cheapie is $25. I mean, it adds up when you're talking millions of sites.
Yeah, I do feel they haven't done enough to talk about the different levels of certificate. You know, there are a lot of different types of security certificates out there, and some of them literally aren't worth a thing. The free ones, I mean, and the ones you often get with your hosting, yeah, forget it. They're actually pretty much worthless. It'll get rid of the little tick box, and that's it.
The other problem is you've got people are confusing SSLs with server security. They're thinking because they have an SSL now they're secure, their server's safe, their website's secure, and it's not. It's not even close.
Two different critters.
And I think Google's just giving people the wrong impression that because the browser says it's secure, it's secure. Right?
The only thing I think is on HTS, where there is basically that thing preloaded in Chrome, and you
that's Google's freaking problem, not everybody else's. That's like me saying to you, well, I just got a flat tire, so I was in front of your house, so you got to pay for it. That's the same thing.
I'm going to build a wall. You got to pay for it.
Yeah, right. Same deal. Stupid and crazy.
But there are, to add to that, there are WordPress developers or plugin developers who are putting up warnings on WordPress sites saying you have to update, your PHP, and they're doing it in big bold across the top of the admin panel. You can't shut it off. And their response is, well, too bad. We think you should upgrade your PHP, and this is how we're going to tell everybody. It's like, yeah, but our clients are freaking out, even though we know it's secure. We've patched our PHP to a level internally that we're secure with. How do you get to determine whether we're secure or not?
Right.
And their general response is, too bad.
Well, they're going to be the next ones to say, oh, if you want WordPress, you got to be on an SSL site or have an SSL, But
actually, that's already in the works. That's already happening, Terry. They're working on it now.
Well, I think when they do it in the future, it won't work if you don't have SSL.
Well, that's exactly what they're going to do. Is they're going to make it only compatible with an SSL TLS certificate, and I understand their motivation for it, not from a profit situation, just from a security of information standpoint. But I don't crowd well, and I don't like being pushed, whether it be a developer or WordPress or Google. Now I've converted all my client sites to SSL, but the only real motivation there was to do so that they would not have this ugly warning box in the SERPs, and that they'd have that nice little green padlock up there in their browser. So, normally we're going with something like Let's Encrypt, which is not what I would use for a secure situation like an e-com store that's taking credit cards by any means. Right. But for just making it attractive to users and to avoid that Google warning, it works fine. Mm-hmm. And it's free.
You just have to be encrypted, that's all. That's all that matters, is it's encrypted.
Yeah. So, that accomplishes that goal. But I wouldn't do that for an e-com. That's not near enough.
I remember when we first tried to do certificates, they aren't real easy to install either.
No, they're not.
I've seen my brother pull his hair out a couple of times trying to get it to work. I'm glad it's not something I had to do.
Yeah, that 15-minute procedure can sometimes run into the days by the time you get all the bugs.
We were on a Windows server, and it even a little more tougher.
Well, yeah, because you got to keep stoking that hopper with coal.
Oh, shh. I've worked on both. I don't see a difference, to be honest. Especially Windows. After so many people said so many bad things about Microsoft, believe me, I believe it's more secure out of the box than Unix is.
Well, it's certainly less of a target.
Especially.
It's less of a target, too. You got fewer hackers out there trying to break into Windows Server just because they know there's not that many out there. It's easier to go after a big, a big body of prey.
Every big company, Fortune 500 I worked with, was on a Microsoft server.
Well, I can believe that, because by the time a large company makes that kind of investment, they're definitely not going to want to do it again anytime soon.
Well, also, big companies can't say we're running on open source stuff when it breaks.
Yeah.
Well, they're running Exchange servers and Outlook and calendar programs and all this other stuff that all has to be dealt with, and you need an enterprise solution.
You know, when you look at the Exchange server, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that people haven't criticised this for the right reasons. They really haven't realised what Google is doing. And you probably know there's quite a lot of apps and toolbars and things like that that hijack AdWords. They serve their own AdWords, they serve their own ads. Google get a hell of a lot of complaints. They waste a hell of a lot of time on stuff that actually is nothing to do with them. And if you start putting in SSL across the web, you will see less of this, fake AdWords going on, because it's not getting injected. You can't do that man-in-the-middle stuff as easily. And you can still do browser plugins, but literally it's only browser plugins. It gets rid of a lot of the other ones. It's an expensive issue for them, both in terms of lost revenue on their actual ads and in terms of how many complaints and issues they have with people thinking it's Google Ads that it isn't.
So Google has a financial motivation to move forward with HTTPS.
Absolutely.
They have agendas, and I don't believe they do anything for the benefit of the internet. They do it for the benefit of Google, nobody else.
Well, they certainly don't do anything without considering the financial aspects of it. I believe that. I don't know that if they had a chance to do something that wasn't going to cost them any money and would join them, get them some brownie points and make the net more secure, I think they would probably do it. But they do have a responsibility to protect their investors.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that I'm a pragmatist. I see it for what it is. I'm not gonna, paint over it and say, it's all good.
There are still some moves that are probably revenue negative for them, because if they would be completely going after revenue positive changes, user wouldn't have that experience that they have today. You would see plenty of ads everywhere. Not that is the case. Like things like the 4 ads is one of those examples of revenue positive one, but like there's some stuff still that is probably still revenue negative in terms of like there's someone rolling out something generally because it's better, no matter if that impacts the revenue. But obviously overall they need to look at the bigger picture, because if everyone goes freestyle on like stuff that impact their revenue, I guess they're a public company and things will be painful. Right?
You know what was the weirdest thing when I was doing the lockdown, like getting the SSL certificate to not give any warnings? It let schema go by, even though it's not an HTTPS link. It let it go by.
Okay, so if you have JSON, it's in a script.
Right.
It's an HTTP.
I was talking about the actual markup where it has item type and prop. I don't know about the head. I don't do much of the JSON. I prefer to mark up the pages, and I thought that was going to be an issue, but it wasn't.
Yeah, you would think, wouldn't you?
Well, I think they know it's a link that goes to a trusted place.
Yeah, it's probably a manual override there.
Oh, for sure. Because I'll tell you, the first time I put out, that's why when they announced it months ago, I freaked out because I tried to convert a not WordPress or just like a site, a shopping cart that I wrote, and man, you pull your hair out for hours to figure out what's tripping the warnings. But this went smooth, and I was surprised that all the calls to schema, no problem. However, a call to the home site of the subs, like I did the practice one on a subdomain to see how it would work with the theme. And the only thing it called was a link to the original site, to the mother site, which I thought, that's where you get into problems. That's where I had an issue before, even though it was a subdomain. The other thing, do you still have to fill out some kind of form on Google when you convert to HTTPS, or is that not necessary anymore?
No, you just have to, add the domain
to your
the Search Console and GA. That's all.
But when it first come out, just fill out something on.
Yeah, there was. That's right. Well, I'd forgotten that. But yeah, there was something. It was just a notification you had to submit.
Yeah, and let them know that you were changing over. But I guess they figured out now. They can figure it out when you. Oh, that might be why they all of a sudden want you to also list all your domains, even if you're not really using them. Like, have you seen that now? When I registered a couple of new ones yesterday, I got this email that said I should also list the HTTP and the non-www and tell them that the HTTPS www was my preferred site, right?
Yeah, that's just canonicals.
Yeah, but if I have canonicals in my,
I know, but not everyone does, as you know. Google deal with the fact that thousands of people make websites for every 10 that actually know what they're doing.
Why do I want 4 entries in GSC for one site? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
I think, I've always kind of wondered if maybe that the reason that they have us list all 4, your secure, non-secure, and your www, non-www, is more link graph directed. You go convert your HTTP to HTTPS. Obviously, they've got whatever your link profile on the old site exists, but they want to be able to marry that. And what happens to those HTTP links in terms of what they see in the graph? Okay, I'm just talking about for them to be able to audit the overall graph. What happens to them if they don't have any place to tie that to until they're actually crawling that link?
Oh, you mean if I'm so dumb I don't have my 301s in place?
It doesn't make any difference. If they're only looking, see, I don't think that they want to see that link only when they're crawling. I think that they've got that graph in a body that they can go and audit and profile the entire link graph or segments of the link graph, irrespective of any redirects, without ever following the link. They don't want to have to crawl.
That may be wishful thinking.
It could be, but that way they would not have to crawl the link to see that it exists. Okay, they would be able to audit their profile or segments more likely because it's so huge.
Yeah, but they're not crawling the web for links; they're crawling the web for information. Links is just part of the information, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. But it's,
Doc, you can think the moon's green. I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying
that doesn't.
It's conjecture, okay? But I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I could see them being able to derive a lot of value from being able to look at the body of the link graph without having to look at the sites that are involved in that link graph.
Right. One's the responsibility of Googlebot, and the other's the responsibility of Caffeine as an indexer.
Yeah. So, I can see them getting a lot of benefit out of that and speeding up and reducing their machine cycles tremendously. So it just seems to me like the sort of thing that they would be likely to pursue. Well, yeah, it's conjecture, but the color of the moon notwithstanding, I can see them chasing things that will make their function more efficient, and it seems to me that would.
I think it's
ones that are there when I have a bunch to change over to SSL before October. I got about probably 10 sites of my own I have to convert. That'll be for the first time they've been touched in a decade.
It also depends on the niche. On I have few websites in Italy that they're perfectly fine, and they cover. One of them is even it's not an e-commerce in a way that there's no checkout on the site, but it's like the actual structure is like an e-commerce with then links as affiliate to Amazon and so on and so forth. So you're competing in SERP with websites that have got e-commerce websites and most likely all HTTPS and so on, but the website is still fine. It's a quite niche site. It's not really like competing on our core keywords, but I'm not gonna touch it. The day I have to touch it, I'll put it in the bin. It would be better than like I'm not gonna do anything on that site.
These situations.
Yeah, at the end of the year, I look if the cost of the domain is more than the little money that it doesn't make, and if the data will stop, I will just press the button, and the internet will suffer from that loss, for years. And
what will those 2 visitors do now?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I wrote something. I wrote a guide on something. It's literally a guide. Is one blog post plus 3,000-4,000 article scraped and bulk uploaded in an e-commerce structure from Amazon, and the guide is useful to a degree, right? But it's the only guide on that subject, and I wrote it in a time when that topic was trending, so it picked up quite well, and no one ever since wrote any guide on that thing, even though it's an object that people use not every day, but it's quite popular. So yeah, it was just an experiment on e-commerce and things like that. I still use it sometimes when I want to test stuff, but yeah, this user will probably not die. Most of them, they've been using that thing without knowing about my guide. So it's
yeah. You working on a new site now. Reusing your research recently, how to date during an eclipse.
Yeah, exactly. No, to be honest, the only reason why my goal is not to write a single line when I build websites, and because I'm terrible at it and super slow, my time is not best used by actually writing anything. So I tried to build a site that was validating some concept within Amazon affiliate without putting the least effort, right? So that's why that thing. But it went from 0 to 15,000-20,000 visits a month in literally a couple of months. 0 links, nothing. Probably is just the secret of picking something that no one will ever think that people are searching for, and write a stupid guide.
Yeah. There was a friend of mine years ago who put an Amazon affiliate thing on his blog, and his blog was a mixture of wild rants and reviewing which women on TV, especially weather forecasters he fancied. And the first week he had this shop up, somebody bought a laptop, and he just said, "Who the hell trusts me to sell them a laptop after reading the content?"
It's just cookies, to be honest. And the more in that country Amazon is widespread, the more you can get. I think that my site sold a medical equipment for dentists worth something like 750 euro. And again, it's not the type of thing that you would go through that site with obviously no design whatsoever. You know, if you look at the site, there's a chance that images of product are broken, like links are as they come, right? I didn't write anything genuine in there at some point. But yeah. But still, people like buy. Once you drop a cookie, you know, especially with Amazon, like now with Prime services, all this kind of stuff, that people are incentivized to buy. Or in the past, they would have shopped around, picked another e-commerce. Because I have Prime, I want it today. I don't care, I'm gonna buy it from Amazon. That means that as long as they touch you, and then they have accounts, you will convert. Right? It's not a bad business, but it's time consuming, and there are a few people like that. I guess they can make a good living out of it. But they need to continue to write good content, plus the whole subject of like having updated inventories and all this kind of stuff becomes heavy. You know, I built that thing on a crap WordPress, and the day you start uploading 60,000 products, the database will tank, and then you need a better e-commerce solution, and then you need to figure out how to with API how to get new products when they expire. All this kind of stuff that if you just do it for fun on a weekend, it's not worth, right? But then if you like, you know, there are some people who do it full time, and I think they can still make some decent money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure how much how much value you add into the wall. You know, if you're looking to make an impact in your life, probably that is not one of the. There are some people who actually do good reviews, and you know they're helpful for people who are shopping, but not always, right? Not always. Sometimes it's just literally cannibalizing some long tail of. If you take 3% of 100,000 products, long tail, you know, when position 3, 4, 5, you're after Amazon for that niche product. You can still probably make some money, but it's just garbage results.
Yeah. I did think of knocking up a little Amazon affiliate myself, simply because there's a lot of people asking, you know, what equipment I use for Hangouts and things like that, and I was just thinking, you know, yeah, stick some Amazon links in there that help them find the right lighting, the camera, the microphone. And it can literally go through to a search result page, because as I say, the main thing is the cookie. The main thing is letting them know what I use, why I use it, and then if they choose to get it through Amazon, I get the credit for it.
Actually, that is the most of the. If you go on website like Flippa, and when they buy and sell sites, the most successful ones are not the one that go very heavy, because you know once I saw that something like this was working, I was almost towards like, okay, let's spend some time on APIs. Why don't I build Amazon V2, right, in terms of scale? But then the most successful one are just people that go with very little content, probably 40, 50 pages, niche topic, very in-depth, long-form content, and then they just have links versus trying to become an e-commerce. Because the day you try to become an e-commerce, you need to provide a good shopping experience, and that's pretty much flawed. Like you will never be able to beat that experience, you know. And so if you just see it, you know, right, but the e-commerce piece is helpful if you add to the content piece to get the long tail, because the content piece you will never go after high volume keyword. You could target some middle niche tail of the tail, and then with the actual e-commerce you can go product by product to supplement that one, and then you see which products are performing better, blah 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 blah. But some of these, literally, you could probably need 20 pages website to make a decent. If you pick the right niche, if you pick the right also product category, because you know, on like electronics and things like that, they pay something like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4%, versus if you go on home gardening, jewelry, there's like almost 10%. Like it can vary quite a lot and depend on like average order value for that category as well. You could be you could be writing off stuff that costs £2, and they pay 2% commission. It's like you're better off not doing it, right?
Yeah, I've got a client that sells the products that and he's actually a sales rep, okay, not an affiliate, but he sells products that run anywhere from $250,000 to $750,000, and his percentages run between 6 and 10%.
Don't have to sell.
That's some sweet stuff, let me tell you. You know, getting a call from him and saying, "Well, I just sold 3 machines yesterday." So where will you be berthing the yacht? You know?
You need to find out what shower he's using, Doc, because you want that shower.
There you go. Yeah, I'm definitely going to change my shower head. Huh?
Yeah, I knew a guy who, you know, it was one of those kind of markets where it's not the volume of sale, it's the volume of value of each sale. And he only needed to, you know, make about 4 sales a year to make a good living.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into something interesting over the last week. I was reviewing a couple of new sites that were non-responsive. Phenomenal the amount of traffic they've lost. Like, I was surprised. Then I looked at my own non-responsive sites. I hadn't looked in quite a while. There's nothing there. Literally nothing. I think it's a bigger deal than people realize that don't have a non-responsive site. With all the other stuff that's going on, SEOs always go there first. They're not going at some of the, you know, it's right there staring you in the face. When you look at it on a mobile phone, it is a really bad experience. I can see why Google doesn't put them in the results. And then you look at their traffic, and even with a non-responsive site, it's 50%.
Yeah,
like that's SEOs. That's what has really.
I still think there's a lot of times when people automatically go for a responsive site where maybe they shouldn't, where maybe it is actually worth having a dedicated mobile site, even today, or even a dedicated mobile app, because
I think you got to have.
There are sites where the level of information, the way people use information is going to be different when it's a very small screen to when it's a big screen. And when you've got that kind of market, you need to know it, and you need to allow for that and know that there are things people are going to want to do on the big screen. There are things people are going to want to do on the small screen, and they're going to swap between. But yeah, if you try and give the big screen experience through the small screen, it's not going to be satisfactory. And if you simplify the big screen to match what you can deliver on mobile, you're missing something for the high-end customers as well. I think there are times still where you need the dedicated mobile site.
I have a kind of a weird theory about it. I think people browse on their phones and buy on their machines. So if you're missing the browsing stage, or people are coming to your site and like literally this site was unusable on a phone.
But like I think that more and more people are actually buying on phones as well. Well, if the experience is good, why? I already started there. I'm not going to turn on my laptop, right? But it also depends on like I agree with Ammon. Like think about TFL, right? Like people that open TFL website on mobile, majority of them probably just want to have status update on like or any quick information versus like. There's some other heavier stuff that people want to have. And something that I find quite surprising is that also Google being fine with people like changing quite a lot the experience between mobile and not. So we have some a component of the site where we have basically you build landing pages by adding panel, widgets next to each other. Literally, it's a CMS that one of our guys built, and in a few clicks you come up with your landing page by adding a bunch of widgets. And some of these widgets by default, or some of these, if we want to, they don't show on mobile. Why? Because we know that on mobile some of this information is too much, and like the experience is not good. The URL is the same, but it's just like depending on how responsive you go, you will have less information. And probably in the past, with people trying to slap stuff in pages that that was not good, Google would make such a fuss with some kind of behavior like this. Versus now, they're actually totally fine. And like not everywhere, but like on some stuff, we almost have half of the page.
Well, I don't know. I think if 50% of your visitors are opening the page and can't do anything and go right back to Google, I think that's hurting your traffic pretty much.
These guys are pretty. These visits are pretty fine. They're not like the important stuff that is there, that has to be there is there. Like the main calculator.
That's what I saw was not like that.
But it depends on which. Like we have the same bounce rate. There's no difference. Like it's literally just about people on computer or on PC. They are more likely to read more explanation about in-depth information around that payment route and blah blah blah. Versus people on mobile, we have a calculator where they press a button and they can send money and so on and so forth. Yeah. So like it depends, but that is quite funny because from my point of view, because it's basically Google being fine serving not completely, but quite different experience depending on screen size, depending on, and that's why like the full responsive thing, like you will never squeeze enough of the full page into a responsive site, no matter how well it's done. Like there's always some stuff that is too much, or otherwise it's there, but people don't read it.
That's why they call it responsive. The page is supposed to respond to the changes in the device and the resolution, all that stuff. Supposed to do that.
Yeah, I get it, but like it's depending on.
That's a big difference, man. Like
the problem with that is that the more responsive you get, the more you have to have the code for all situations. You've got areas of code that this will only be shown on a large screen. This will only be shown on a medium and small screen. This will only be shown on a mobile screen.
That's extreme. That's extreme. I mean, I can take a WordPress site that's non-responsive, build it, and I don't have to do anything extra.
Right, but we're already on a very limited market there when we're only talking about WordPress sites. If you're using WordPress, it's already slow as shit, so it doesn't matter if it's responsive or not. But if you're doing a proper site, it's built from scratch, but in the code, it starts to make a big difference. And responsive can be slower. If you want the best possible performance and you're prepared to pay for it, a dedicated mobile site is still going to be responsive every day of the week. However, you're probably still going to want your larger screen device to be somewhat responsive, because there's a lot of difference between somebody on a 4K screen, somebody with 1920 resolution, somebody with an older machine, somebody on a tablet.
Someone on a Mac with Retina versus a poor guy on a like matte display that will not see part of the design, and and some companies, you need to pick a fight, right? Like for how many resolution and like device and browsers you're gonna build that thing.
Yeah. I still think there's a lot of people who design. They understand that design is important, first impressions matter, but they make something responsive without making sure that it's equally good on all of those devices. They make sure it works on all devices and it looks great on their main device.
The only difference on the sites that I make is if I have video, I replace the video with a picture on a smartphone.
If there's a lot of text on a site, again, I find people are less likely to do that on mobile. They're more likely to do it on tablet. There's a cut-off point, and it will depend on your market, but you do need to start examining how far people scroll, how far people are prepared to read. Because I know there's a lot of sites where, you know, my smartphone's great. It's got a great screen. It's really good quality. It's lightning fast. But I'm not going to do large amounts of reading on that. I'd rather switch to a video or an audio file if it's significantly long. But that's only going to happen on a long journey when I've got my earphones with me. I'm not going to, you know, in the street suddenly start listening to and playing videos. It's too distracting. So you've really got to start playing with the user scenarios, understand when your customers use it, when they use different parts and how they will use those things, and when they'll switch to another device.
Especially on, like, one example of this is that we have some kind of pages where we realize that people don't scroll more than 70%. So at least 70-80% we lose of the actual page. We lose. People are gone, right? And that's why, like, where you can be a bit more aggressive on mobile. What's the point, especially on a slow connection, small screen, with a lot of text, to load all the remaining parts, right? If people actually don't read it. Like, and we're pretty confident through Hotjar and all this kind of stuff that people don't read it. So, but, you know, without completely shifting the page, because it's the same URL, right? Ranking, being indexed, but you can adjust some stuff. Like, I mean, for us, it's working fine in some cases. Without we're not serving different pages, the same page. It's just taking that into account.
Yeah, and there's times where I want to completely change the way I pitch to different devices because, you know, the large screen, yeah, it can be much more like a PDF document. The small screen, you kind of need to think more like a slideshow. You know, it's much easier if you give people smaller chunks and they page through. It makes it more digestible. Whereas on the large screen, it's easier for them to scroll precisely. They've got more real estate to use at a given time. And I just find that, you know, the way you present the information should be different between the devices. Yeah, it's one of those things, you know, test. It's going to be market specific. It's going to be business specific. And it's one of those ones you can't just use the same rule of thumb for everything. Well, we've got, what, about 10 minutes left? I think it's probably time to start doing our round of what people have got coming up. Bill, kick us off. What are you up to? You're muted. There we go.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah.
I have a couple of blog posts I'm working on. One's on autocomplete that I thought was really interesting. And I'm looking forward to writing those and getting them out there.
What, you haven't to write it? I thought it would autocomplete.
Well, the post isn't autocomplete. It's about autocomplete.
Autocomplete on forms, or
when people type a query in.
Oh no, in search.
Yeah, I love looking at continuation patents where Google re-releases a patent they've already published before, but changes around the way it works. And they rewrite the claims, so you don't have to look at the whole description. You just look at the claims and see what they've rewritten there. And this one says something along the lines of, we're going to look at previous queries you've run and how you've interacted with related sites to decide what to show you as autocomplete suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is a new way to do it.
Talking about autocomplete, like this is more related to forms, but I was reading something these days, but recently I filled few forms to open few accounts with a couple of companies, and it was quite striking me like how much people don't use that auto-completion on mobile with existing fields. There was one company that was asking me to put my date of birth, and they were like showing the dates from 1920 or from 1910 to 2000, with like 2000 something being the last one. I think
and you had a big long list of years.
yeah. I think these people should be penalized, and like, you know, that phone page, that login page should be almost the index from Google, because like, how come that someone, like, what is the likeliness of someone from like 1920 opening an account on this thing, right? So it's just like common sense that yeah, that's quite funny.
Yeah.
Common sense ain't so common anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Probably this company had a lot of customers from like 1910, 1920. I'm not sure like what is their lifetime value in with all good faith, but it was probably not.
And I can imagine they don't have any UX designers who are older than, say, maybe 30.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't even think that a lot of people aren't going to scroll down that far.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm over 30. I was 40 when I started this, Bill. Thanks. Now I feel old. Hey, Doc.
Think about address drop downs when you're in the U.S. and whoever wrote the site decided that they should put those in alphabetical order. So you've got to scroll down a long list. Choose U.S. or UK.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Although you just type the first letter and it jumps to that section.
Mm-hmm.
the browser does that somewhat. Mine does, because I go to the same sites all the time. Well, and I use Microsoft, which has built-in memory for that. It auto-fills a lot. But I found, like, if I'm searching on Google and I put BU, it knows that I'm searching for Buzz Pizza.
Oh, right. I thought it'd show you Neil Patel because it thought you were searching for bullshit.
Buzz Pizza, huh?
Yeah, I know it's good. Yeah. That's the one around here.
Nice. Doc, what are you up to?
Well, still
Publish
trying
now.
to get everything all wrapped up on relaunching Search News Central. Got me originally Danny Goodwin was going to come on board as our editor, and then he got a better offer, one that actually pays. He's gone over to Search Engine Journal, which I think is going to be good for Search Engine Journal.
Yeah.
So I had to find a new editor, and I found one guy I've worked with many times over the years, and is very enjoyable read on his stuff. And he used to be with, in fact, he still is with Best of the Web, and was actually, he's their chief editor over there, and he used to be with DMOZ for many years. So looking forward to having him crank up here. So we're trying to get that fired up, and that we're working on a schedule for the all the writers. And that's going to keep me busy for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. All months. It's been a while coming.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun though. Looking forward to it.
Cool. Fab.
Yeah, tomorrow I have SEMrush webinar, and in the morning, because it's an India focused gig. It's quite interesting actually. I like to. I'm not working too much in that country, so I like to explore how does it look like as well. Yeah, and then and then few more things, and I'm on holiday in Italy, in Sardinia from Saturday, so it's
Nice.
London has been pretty terrible in the past few weeks in terms of weather. It's close to winter, right? It's less than 20 degrees. It's raining, so I'm kind of looking forward to some good weather. Hopefully, good food. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Of course, right, not too far away now. You all set for that?
Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, I think I'm staying also on the on night before. Yeah, so I'm coming on Thursday, and I'm staying there. I was coming only on Friday usually, but I'm staying because also there's one guy in my team who is speaking there. So anyway, I'm going to be there for the whole.
You should be doing the Friday night staying there as well, because that way you get to go to the after parties and.
Yeah, I'll do the pre one. Like, yeah. Try to make up for that. I can
Well, people try and take it easy on the pre one, unless I get them in a shots contest. But
well,
yeah,
they generally it depends. I think last one actually, like there were few people from the usual guys who were not in such a great shape on a Friday morning. So I assume
I think personally that it should be mandatory that you attend both pre and post.
Yeah.
I attend the post one, but I usually take the last train to London on Friday night, which is never a good idea, but for some reason I always end up doing it.
Yeah, it's a lot easier doing it the other way round, because the last train from London to Brighton is something like 2 or 3 in the morning. It's really late.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last one back from Brighton, I think, is only just after 11 or something like that. Anyway, Steve, what are you up to this week?
This week we're going to be finishing up a couple of projects real quick, and then hanging the shingle out. It's time to put a couple more clients in the pipeline, I think. For you know how it is. If you don't try to keep the pipeline at least a little bit full, next thing you know, it's empty.
Yeah, and it's one of the hardest things for the small business, because so often they're wearing all the hats. And what used to happen when I first started consulting is, of course, like no clients. So you go out there, you're pitching, you're building up the pitches. You know that some of them just aren't coming through, so you're pitching, and of course suddenly they all come through at once, including the ones you've written off. Now you've got more work than you can.
With the farm and everything, I try to manage my work versus real life hours. So I get to a certain level, and it's like, okay, I don't want to work any more than this, because then I have to take away from somewhere else. Till 1 or 2 projects end at the same time.
Yep.
And I had to happen about 2 years ago. I lost 60% of my business in the span of a month and a half, simply because the clients either got bought or sold, or stuff happened. And next thing I went, oh, this is painful.
Yeah, I just took a 30% hit on my business. And it's either feast or famine, You're almost afraid to try to build it up, because you're already hard pressed for time, and then all of a sudden something goes south, and you scramble to put bread on the table, So I love it.
Yeah, it's one of those ones I've seen so many small businesses, so many consultants really struggle. You've got to treat yourself as one of your clients. You've got to, whenever you're taking work on, still remember that you owe work to yourself. To topping up that pipeline, to keeping those things going that keep your business running. Otherwise you go, oh, I'm swamped, I've got to do these, and there you are, focused away on all this client work, and then you get to the end of it, you relax, you cash the check, and you suddenly realise that
there's no client work.
Yeah, so you've got to have yourself client all the way through.
It's the one burden I'm willing to bear for the lifestyle we have.
Yeah. Terry, what are you up to this week?
Let me think. Not too much, Same as usual. 5'9", 5'9.5" on a stretch, I guess. I'm going to try and do some programming. I haven't done some of that in a while. I've been thinking about figuring out a way to, just so someone can give any table to me and I can sort it and turn it into a feed. So basically, map, figure out a way, probably using Ajax, because now I've seen it do its thing. So I'm kind of interested in what I could do with that.
You have seen a new schema with how-tos that
really?
influence whether or not you get a featured snippet using schema markup, which is a new thing.
But of course, that can cut down the traffic you get because suddenly Google is serving the instructions through Google, not your page instead of,
Yeah, but I don't know. Here's the thing. Everybody says that, but when you talk to people and read everything that I've read about it, says the opposite, that it draws more traffic.
People click through to read the rest of your
Yes.
instructions. Yeah.
Or they're intrigued with the recipe. What else can I get there? Because you find with I guess I really understand the food stuff, having spent, gone to school to learn about it. It intrigued me. And when you said how-tos, I'd like to, I have a plan maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I think those are the ones that work. The recipes and the how-tos tend to be bigger than they're going to put in a snippet. But if, on the other hand, you were previously running a site that did quotations or served images, believe me, Google robbed your business blind. Google image search prevented a lot of views to those pages, and the quotation searches. Google serves the quote, who it's by, and a couple of other quotes. Yeah, forget it. You're not getting the hit.
Right. If it's a song, you might have it licensed.
One thing that I noticed is that recently on some of the all the snippets or not the blog content where we actually get snippet, we generally tend to get more traffic, not less. Even though but in our case it's very long guides, so it's not necessarily short receipts. Well, one thing I noticed is that they're using other website images on your actual snippet, which is terrible because the actual image not necessarily represents, or it when they were picking the image so you're taking the bullet point list plus the image from the site, fair enough, right? But then sometimes they take in that from another side because maybe the actual page is missing it, but they're starting to do that more and more. For instance, I was even Googling Googlebot, and they take the image from, because they don't have a Googlebot image probably on that actual blog post. So there is the webmaster console, the webmaster tool, forum page in the snippet, but then there is a Varvy, which is that Patrick Sexton Feed the Bot guy image of Googlebot, and that's quite misleading because sometimes there's not a true image with copyright and so on and so forth. But imagine you're talking about something that has got some sort of copyright. You're going to show my company information plus someone else's image, which is, I don't know, it feels it probably helps in filling images where they're missing, but it doesn't sound is working that well.
It's a whole world wide web of choices.
It can be a real problem with the image's branding, though, if it includes logos and things like that, that then associate your content with another brand, and they remember that brand giving them great content, and it wasn't.
Exactly that, right?
We are out of time. Thanks for joining us this week, and we'll be back next week. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.